Hi everyone, welcome back to Atrium Research's YouTube channel. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Robert Boyd, the CEO of Endurance Gold, which trades on the TSXV under the symbol EDG. We currently cover Endurance with research and have a buy rating and a 50 cent per share target price on the company. Robert, great to have you here today.
Ben, thanks very much. Pleasure to catch up with you.
And there's lots to be caught up on. And so with that, for the viewers that have not heard the story top to bottom, I thought it'd be good for you to share your presentation, run us through the story top to bottom, and then we can get into some more detailed questions about what you did in 2024 as well as what's to come here in 2025 with the kickoff of the program this week, actually.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to do that, and I'll what I have is a presentation that I probably won't. We'll just start kind of where our main project's located in BC, and that's our lead project. And if we've got time to answer questions about the other projects, but we're really funding primarily our gold discovery up in the Goldbridge camp, 4 hours drive north of Vancouver. And we're onto a pretty encouraging system up there and have consolidated a significant land position. And it's road accessible year round, 10 kilometers from the old Braylorn Pioneer mine, which is now being reactivated by Talisker. And we've been consolidating the antimony associated gold prospects in the district, which are the high level orogenic and have analogies to Fosterville in the sense of being an antimony gold system with fine gold, where Braylorn is the coarser, deeper, more typical orogenic gold systems. Um, so this just shows all the different gold occurrences that are consolidated on our land position, all having gold and or antimony or both. And our main discovery that we're working on, where all of our drilling to date has been on this Imperial Eagle trend. Uh, and since we acquired the property, we've got over 25 kilometers of drilling and had great success over the past few years. In particular, this year, we've now extended the system over 1.5 kilometers of trend and 1.1 kilometers vertical, with some really good intersections that link up the Eagle and Imperial zone. So it's a consistently structural system now we've identified over that trend, with a new deep discovery at the lower Imperial as well as lower Crown. But a key thing in the lower Imperial is a new parallel zone that we've identified down there with about 7.18 grams per ton gold over 8.3 meters. Got some encouragement with soil sampling we did this year that extend the system to the southeast, opening it up for over 2 kilometers of trend now, with no drilling on that superficial anomaly. And we also finalized 100% ownership, and really have had some great success, cost-effective exploration. We spent about 10 million, and our goals coming up here in the coming years with this 7,000-meter drill program that we just announced yesterday, that it started up, is to infill, expand, and 3D model for a conceptual open pit resource. Identify some additional drilling that we want to do in that area, expand this lower Imperial discovery that we got that had about 7 grams over 8 meters, about 600 meters downhole, so that's almost 400 meters below surface. We've had a whole new zone that we want to see if we can extend it to surface, and also expand the existing Royal Shear, where we got most of our 108 drill holes and intersections of 70% success. Expand that system at depth. The goal is to come out of this in 2025 with a maiden mineral resource, with it primarily focused initially on open pit, and then demonstrate the ability to grow this system with these deeper intersections. And as part of our work, we want to do representative metallurgy that focuses on consistent recovery of gold to a high-grade concentrate. And as we announced yesterday, is starting up the program to also look at, the ability to potentially peel off an antimony concentrate, because it represents a significant contributed value if there's a way to recover that separately from a bulk concentrate. And of course, new discovery growth is a focus this year, expanding to the southeast, expanding on these other structures out to the east of us, with a new drill permit in those areas to start bringing new targets into the fold of shallow discoveries with a growth at depth in the camp for a major multi-million ounce gold camp for us. So that this kind of shows you the nature of the drilling we've got to date over that 1.5 kilometer historical thing and 1 kilometer, 1.1 kilometers vertical. In our press release yesterday, we announced that these systems are open to expansion down in this area, and we're now back drilling to see if we can pick up the expansion of this parallel structure we hit down at depth, to see if we can identify that up dip in this area with infill drilling to expand this system as well. And I'll just quickly go forward to just showing you how we've got this gold system over the 1.5 kilometers of trend. And this shows you the imperial zone. I'll just show you this imperial zone is the traditional zone we've been exploring along that full 1.5 kilometers of trend. And last year, our deepest hole we drilled on the property, we went through imperial, picked up the imperial zone, but also kept the hole going through alteration and identified this new discovery at depth where we got the 7.8 grams over 8.3 meters. So our target work is to target uptrend of that, and we're testing in this gap now initially to not only get an imperial zone intersection on about a 60, that's 185 meter between those two holes. So it's a big gap in here. So we're testing in that gap and pushing down to see if we can pick up this zone coming up to surface as well. And then we may go up here if the year progresses. We have encouragement and continue to follow that system up. And then going back to the longitudinal, filling in the zones in here to give us better continuity of mineralization in this area at the lower crown, link it up with imperial, and demonstrate the shoot plunge direction of the system, which we anticipate might be heading off in directions like this and up in directions like this. And narrower hits that we get in the crown zone that had some pretty significant high-grade intersections in there, which included about 147 grams over 1 meter of high-grade systems with visible gold. So, and this just shows you what that cross section looks like further up the hill, 700 meters away. Same package of rocks up in the upper hill, but we don't have potential up in here for the lower imperial zone that we've identified to date, and it's primarily because there's a chert sequence in here that squeezes out that. But this is that same 80 to 100 meter envelope that we've chased now over 1.5 kilometers of trend. And up here, we have a football zone and a hanging wall zone, and then the linking structures in here where we get a lot of adds significant to the resource. It is easily amenable over about a 550 meter strike on the hillside to look at designing an open pit to go after this zone. And that's the nature of what we're trying to do now. We've got the density of drilling at Eagle. We want to fill in some gaps between Eagle and Imperial near surface and say, can we actually extend the pit and pick up Imperial in a pit going down the hill as well? So that's the goal of our modeling efforts this year, and fill in some gaps to help us do that, and focus the initial resource on what can we mine here is there a potential to develop a model, 3D open pit model, which goes after lower grades but picks up a lot of tonnage and gold near surface, and then then you get a better understanding of the system too when you start mining it and exploring it, and use
And if
that
I
to build
may,
on the deep tonnage. So,
sorry, I was just going to jump in here, Robert, on that, going
sure.
back to that slide there. I just thought I'd highlight some of the grades that are within 100 meters of surface, almost right from surface. These are very high grades relative to what we're seeing in open pits these days. Just from these numbers on this slide, 15, 8, 3, 3.5, again, 15, 5 over 7 meters, some serious grades, all within, very close to surface, I think needs to be noted just because most of the time what we're seeing these days with these open pits are, below 1 gram, quite frankly, or 1.5 would be considered high grade. So certainly an interesting and intriguing development here, and I'm quite excited to see what this resource will look like when the time comes.
Yeah, and this just kind of shows you a list of some of those hits, and you can see these best hits are and where they are in the intersection from surface down hole. You can see that a lot of these hits are all near surface, and these are the best of the 19 holes, best 19 of the 108 holes.
Right.
So it just shows that there are zones in there where you get some very good grade over width, but we also have wider zones that are in the 2 gram range and stuff. So hey, there is a possibility here based on what we've got modeling here to pull all of that stuff in if it's in an open pit, and
Yep.
and then understand the system and demonstrate that here these zones, when we do get them, often have a high grade core and can easily be chased at depth with underground mining once you really fully understand them in the open pit mining scenario. So
Mm-hmm.
and so that opens up real potential. And we've also got antimony with the system. So we touched in our press release yesterday about wanting to look at metallurgical study that not only gets a representative over the whole system, but also says, is there a way of peeling off this antimony content, which on average of all our 199 drill hole RC and our channel sample composites averages maybe 0.2% on an arithmetic basis. This is not a weighted average or a 3D resource model, together with about 4.5 grams gold over an average hit width for all of these hits, about 10 meters. So it does show that there's a lot of antimony in this system, but it is a bit more spottier than the gold. The gold's very continuous over the system, and so we want to understand where the antimony is and what the recovery methodologies are, so that we consider that as an alternative in feeding the critical minerals market, which based on $18,000 per ton adds maybe the equivalent of half gram kind of rock value, but at 30,000 per ton current numbers it may even add almost a gram equivalent. We're focused on this as a gold deposit, but we have to take into consideration the strategic mineral. Is there a way of feeding the market a product here that they would really want? So this is what makes our system different, is its breccias and the whole gold system, and it's totally different than the crack and seal veins. But we still have potential in our system to generate these high grade quartz veins like we see here, with a lot of visible gold here associated with arsenopyrite in this grayish material, and here is a fine grained stibnite in the vein, in the traditional more quartz vein here. And these quartz veins get caught up in that brecciation event, and these white fragments in here are quartz vein fragments that are in the breccias that actually have vein type attitudes over this 1.5 kilometers of trend, but they're tabular breccias. So it's almost like it's a vein system that was totally crunched up in brittle deformation. So and of course, if you want to find open pitable resources, you find them because of geochem anomalies, and they're near surface. And so there's still potential with a new anomaly we've got to the southeast to open this system up dramatically to the southeast within our existing drill permit over here. And then we're applying for a drill permit to chase these other gold systems of multiple parallel structures over here that look like the same kind of setting, antimony gold system associated with northwest trending structural environments, and geochem features that look like they have the same kind of size potential as we're already seeing over here at the Royal Shear and the Imperial Eagle Trend. So now we want to try and move these with additional soil sampling and surficial work this year to move them to drill target stage with detailed geophysics potentially, and and initial drill testing either late this year or in 2026.
And do you
So
have
the
drill
whole goal
permits?
here is deliver a plus million ounce system, hopefully with a good component of that an open pit with what we've already got, and then continue to build and grow out the system with new surface discoveries and new structures that are orogenic, so they know we're high in the system, so they got potential to grow at depth. So that's kind of a quick outline of our story. We're back drilling now, and things are going well, and we're also doing additional target generation work to bring other targets in this camp to drill stage and new discovery stage.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's certainly an exciting story. We'll get into a bit more on the Royal Shear, but just while you had this slide up here, do you have drill permits for these areas around the Olympic claims already, or is that something that's being applied for
No,
right
we're in the
now?
permit application process right now, and so but we've gone, what's very important about getting permits in the BC is consultation and with First Nations
Yep.
and communities, and that's been going on now for 2 or 3 years, and heritage assessments and all this kind of stuff are all behind us now. So we're at that stage now where we're applying for a drill permit for this area. We have a drill permit that already covers this trend.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so we've got potential to move this to drill stage this year, and depending on the turnaround with the BC government, uh, and their comfort that we've done enough consultation,
Mm-hmm.
then this could be could be brought to drill stage by late fall, by late summer, early fall. So as
Right.
well as a possibility.
Well, no, and that's certainly, an exciting future upside beyond the Royal Shear and what's to come with
Yeah.
that resource. So, yeah, maybe we can talk about this slide a little bit on the Eagle Zone in particular. I know you showed that other cross section where we spoke about the higher grade intercepts. You mentioned this potentially extending further south along this trend, southeast. Can you maybe talk about that a little bit with this slide here? It might be useful for investors to get an idea of what sort of upside there is to the size of these zones.
Yeah, well, our geochem trend that we've defined here has probably got about a two kilometer geochemical trend. Our drilling intersections, where it's been drilled, is about a 1.5 kilometer trend. And this is the pink coloration is the strong iron carbonate sericite alteration associated with that 80 to 100 meter wide corridor we're referring to. And this is the Eagle Zone in outcrop that we discovered in our program. And then the Imperial Zone in outcrop, all in that same structural trend. And then this past year and this last year's drilling activity, we did link these things up with deep discoveries of the lower crown zone and an intersection like 150 grams over 1 meter in the crown area. So we're linking these features up, all part of that same corridor. This corridor continues to the southeast and to the northwest. Um, we have one hole up here that kind of doesn't have much encouragement with it. So right now the focus of our exploration is to move to the southwest, and that's why this past year we went into an area where we'd done traditional surface geochem, but mostly biogeochem, and we just decided, well, we better do traditional geochem and broadened out our geochem survey up here, and then picked up a slight offset. It wasn't right on the exact trend, but a slight offset of this zone to the southeast, and now have another 500-meter long geochem anomaly to the southeast down here. Same kind of geochemical signatures we saw over on top of Eagle and Outcrop.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hopeful that will now bring that with a little bit of work to close off the anomaly and uh, and uh, and make and then have discussions with respect to putting the drill roads into the area with based within our existing drill permit, that we'll be able to bring that to the drill target stage by the fall. So, to the
Right.
southeast.
Right.
So that,
Understood.
and on a cartoon perspective, we just show it on here as this anomaly down here. We're, um, so we don't have a detailed map to show its exact location, and there's reasons for that. And and so the focus is to build this system out, which is partly reflected here with this tail of the anomaly that
Yeah.
strengthens out to another 500-meter trend down here. So
Great. And and then so going back to the campaign that you commenced this week, 7,000 meters of diamond drilling. How much of that is made up of infill drilling along the Royal Shear versus expansion drilling into new zones and new areas?
all of that 7,000 meters, we anticipate working and growing out the existing system. Potentially some infill in this area to see is there stuff we can draw in and create in our model pit to create this as a continuous pit down the hill and pick up both Imperial and Eagle and say,
Right.
is there something we would be able to pick up in here, or would that just be turn this into sort of two smaller pits? One smaller pit down here and a bigger pit up here
That's between
over
Eagle and
550.
the
Yeah,
that's between
right. So
Eagle and the
this,
top of Imperial.
yeah. So modeling a pit that gets some of this high grade up at the Eagle, and then uh, the Imperial zone that's near surface here as well. But there's not a lot of drill information in here, so we want to maybe look at fill in some information here. Is there any hits in here that we can also draw into the pit, or should we just leave it as a barren unmined zone in the open pit and focus
Right.
this for underground mining? So
Right.
those are the
Right.
kind of
And that's
questions we need to answer. And the nature of our current work is testing this area here and then moving up dip with the drilling as the season
and
progresses.
forgive me, Robert, but I'm realizing we can't see your mouse when you're talking about these areas. I think you're
Oh,
putting
okay.
your mouse over. So yeah, sorry, we can't see that.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure most people were following along there. Eagle down to the top part of Imperial. The gap in
Yeah,
between
from
is the potential
Imperial
to.
on that cross section is from Imperial lower crown up to surface
Hmm.
in the area in the gap between Eagle and Imperial. There's a lower density of drilling, so we want to fill in that density with more
Yeah.
work this coming year. So
And then lastly, you also mentioned, this new discovery, Lower Imperial, 7.18 grams per ton over 8.3 meters. Obviously, great grades for a potential underground portion of the deposit. Um, I don't imagine you're going to spend a lot of time drilling that bottom portion out, but yes, here's that photo where you probably want to poke a few holes into here and see where it extends if it does continue up towards surface.
that's correct. And we want to, the drilling to date up at Imperial tended to focus on this 80 to 100 meter wide corridor where all the previous intersections were. And when we push this hole at depth, we go, well, we perhaps should have pushed these holes up here even deeper, right? When we never did.
Yeah.
So now we'll go back and fill in some gaps and test across these zones, get good information out of Imperial, and also test the up dip potential and say, is this parallel structure coming to surface so we can pick it up both open pit and underground scenario near surface as well as part of our modeling efforts.
Right.
So
Understood.
it's
Yeah.
right now
So.
we're totally hanging this off a lot of romance. It's a single hole that doesn't have anything around it for
Hmm.
hundreds of meters, so that have ever tested this area. The only encouragement we have is that it roughly comes to surface approximately where the old treasure shear came to surface, which in our geochem anomaly here we see this treasure shear trend. So is
Right.
that lower Imperial the same feature coming to surface? It's just not as strong up near surface and broadens out and gets stronger at depth. That's the
Right.
concept. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. And then, so I guess just to summarize for the investors, obviously, again, we've spoken about how drilling has commenced. This is early for BC explorers, just given the lower elevation, relatively close to Vancouver, comparatively to the Golden Triangle explorers. But um, can you maybe just walk us through the timeline? So you're drilling now. When would we expect the first batch of assays to come and be reported? And then as you lead into metallurgical results with regards to the antimony, and then lastly, of course, the mineral resource is going to be that big one. I don't imagine or expect that would come until late this year or even early January, February.
Well, we've done some 3D modeling already. But that 3D modeling is helping to demonstrate where there's some gaps. So um, uh, so our goal would be to try and fill in some of those gaps of information, just to roll them into the model and focus on with an initial focus of what we deliver as a resource model is the open pit component. We
Yep.
won't focus on underground because what we want to do is we know that the system is going to continue to underground potential, but our initial resource would focus on modeling for lower to pull in all the lower grades and get a lower you wouldn't have a 5 or 6 gram open pit. You'd have something perhaps a little lower because you're pulling in the full widths near surface. Because of your mining costs are lower, you can pull in and pull in lower grades. So our goal is to achieve that initially at surface and then transition um, so that you have a ultimate mining situation that has your payback near surface and you transition into higher grade underground mining in the future. So
Right. Right.
yeah.
Great. Well, we're certainly looking forward to all of that to come. It's a good start in terms of the catalyst, the news flow, etc. will come through the spring and into the summer and then even into the fall. With that, did you have any closing remarks you wanted to mention or?
No, well, we anticipate that, with our current drilling, it is a deep hole, so those uh, take a bit of time to complete, and but we're, uh, but we should start reporting results from initial drilling sometime in June, right? Depending on turnarounds at the labs, and so we just hope. It's still early in the season, so we don't know what the turnaround times are going to be like, but we're beating the rush. We're beating the iron the Golden Triangle rush, so it's still snow up there. We've been clear on the ground and good to go here for a month now, so in our area.
Great.
So
Great. Well, with that, Robert, thank you for walking myself as well as the listeners through the story. Certainly looking forward to what's to come in 2025 with everything we just discussed. For the viewers, if you haven't seen our research on endurance gold, you can find that at atriumresearch.ca and just toggle to the endurance tab. And again, Robert, thanks for your time today and best of luck this year.
thank you very much, Ben. Take care.